Hello, everyone. Tonight, we're diving into something a bit darker than usual. An era of plague, punishment, and gruel. We'll explore what life was truly like in the Middle Ages. Forget the glamorous castles and gallant knights Hollywood has fed you. The truth is, you probably wouldn't survive a single day. So, before you settle in, take a second to like the video and subscribe to the channel. But only if you genuinely enjoy what I'm doing here. And don't forget to leave a comment letting me know where you're watching from and what time it is. I'm always curious to know who's joining me on this journey from around the world. Now, dim the lights. Turn on a small fan for some soothing background noise. And let's step into tonight's time travel. Congratulations. You just woke up in 1325. Good news, you're alive. Bad news, so are the fleas. Your bed is a rotting straw mattress, stuffed with hay and tiny creatures you'd rather not name. No memory foam. No soft pillows. No clean sheets. Just a tattered woolen blanket, heavy as a calf from soaking up the winter's damp. That blanket has never been washed. Its smell is a mix of mold, kitchen smoke, and something eerily close to a goat pen. You open your eyes. The ceiling is blackened wooden beams, with gaps letting in drafts. No electric lights. No curtains. Just faint light seeping through the door's cracks and the distant church bells ringing. A reminder that it's time to start another grueling day. You're not alone. The house is a single room. An open space where family, livestock, and insects coexist. To your left is your father. To your right, your sibling. At the foot of the bed is some distant uncle who's been here since who knows when. By the hearth, there's a goat. And a chicken is pecking through last night's ashes for scraps. You try to stretch. Big mistake. The cold grabs you like claws. Your joints creak like rotting wood. You're only 22 years old. But in 1325, you're already middle-aged. Life expectancy is so low that old people are practically mythical creatures. You step out of bed. Or rather, onto the floor. Actual dirt. No tears. No rooks. Just dirt. Wet and cold. Maybe it's rainwater leaking from the thatched roof last night. Or maybe it's the goat's urine. Possibly both. You sniff. Another mistake. The room reeks. The smell of humans. The smell of animals. The smell of damp. And the smell of despair. You can smell the poverty. The exhaustion seeping into every fiber of this ramshackle house. No private rooms. No privacy. No time for yourself. Every action is public. Yawns. Coughs. Groans. It's all a morning symphony. A kind of music you can't turn off. You haven't eaten. You haven't brushed your teeth. You're not even sure if you'll get to do either. But the first thing you need is to find a way out of here. To start the day. And to hope it doesn't end in death. But don't get too optimistic. You're living in the Middle Ages, where a simple cold, a small scratch, or even breathing in the wrong place could end your life. Are you ready? No, that's fine. Because no one is ever ready for the Middle Ages. We're only just getting started. So, you've woken up, dragged your aching body from the moldy straw bed, and taken a breath of air flavored with chicken dung and resignation. And then, nature calls. Not just calls, it kicks the door down, screaming in your gut like a bloodthirsty army storming a castle gate. You need to relieve yourself. Immediately. And if you thought a gas station bathroom in the middle of a desert was bad, wait until you see what the Middle Ages have in store. No flush toilets. No doors. And certainly no 3-ply soft toilet paper. No. Those luxuries haven't even been dreamed of yet. What you have is a bucket. A cracked wooden bucket. Sitting behind the house. Right next to a leaning wall held together by Faith. You step outside. Barefoot. Onto a mix of slimy mud. Strav. Garbage. And something slippery you'd rather not think too much about. Your toilet isn't a fixed structure. It's a concept. An idea. A silent agreement between you and nature. I'll do my business here. And you, oh. Mighty wind, please blow the smell somewhere else. You squat. Hiking up your heavy. Korse woolen tunic. No door. No walls. Just you. The wooden bucket. And all of nature as your audience. If you're lucky. There might be a makeshift screen of branches. But it only covers one side, from the other. You get both a view of the hills and the judgmental stare of the neighbor's grandma. Her eyes saying. Again. When you're done. You stand up. No peeper. You look around. Maybe grab some straw. Or an old rag. Or, best case scenario, a large, thorn-free leaf. If none of those are around, well, you just leave it. Manido. No judgment. Welcome to the 14th century. And then, it's time to deal with the product. You don't empty it into a pit. Because there is no pit. You carry the bucket to the main dirt road and, following time-honored tradition, shout. Gardez l'eau, Old French for watch out for the water. Then you dump it right onto the street. Yes. Medieval streets are an open river of urine. Human waste. Hosmanure. And everything in between. You've never seen a puddle so terrifying. In bigger cities. If you're lucky enough to live near a public latrine. Congratulations. It's a long wooden bench with evenly spaced round holes. Like a giant keyboard. People sit side by side. Shoulder to shoulder. Cheek to cheek. No dividers. No private conversations. This is where all classes are equal before nature. You might strike up a chat with the person next to you. But try not to breathe too deeply. The air here is so thick even bees struggle to fly through without passing out. You ask. What about the nobles? Surely they had it better. The answer, yes, and no. In casas. They had something called a garderobe. A small room with a hole cut into the outer wall. Letting waste drop straight into the moat below. Sounds modern. Right. Until you learn that enemies sometimes climbed up through that very hole to infiltrate the castle. Yes. Breaking in via the waste chute. A move both bold and foul-smelling. And the truly wealthy. They used soft silk to wipe, but most still resorted to straw. Aye. Or yes, their hands, washing afterward. If there's clean water. Great. If not, just wipe it on your clothes. Don't panic. This is why handshakes weren't a thing yet. Back to you. You've completed your morning duty. Emptied the bucket. Dodged the neighbor grandma's piercing gaze. And are heading back. But you can't let your guard down. One wrong step. One slippery stone. And you could slip. Landing butt first in the village's holy puddle. No one helps you up. Not out of cruelty. They just don't dare touch it. You shuffle back home. Feeling both relieved and horrified. And that was just the warm-up. Because next, you'll face something equally dreadful, medieval breakfast. But before we get there, take a moment to be grateful. Thank your toilet paper. Thank your flash valve. And thank your lockable doors. Because after a 14th century bathroom trip, you'll never take privacy for granted again. Welcome to the reality show where you and your dignity are tested from the crack of dawn. And this is just the beginning. You've just survived your encounter with the medieval toilet. Your feet are still wet. Your nose is still haunted. And your stomach now is not just empty but screaming with the volume of a rock band rehearsing for an apocalyptic concert. Breakfast is your hope. Something warm. tasty, and nourishing to kickstart another grueling day. But you forgot one thing. This isn't the 21st century. This is 1325. And here, the word delicious hasn't been invented. You shuffle toward the kitchen. No fridge. No microwave. Just a blackened cast iron pot sitting on a fire freshly kindled with dried cow dung and twigs. Inside the pot is something thick, grayish-brown, steaming, and smelling like boiled dirt mixed with old turnips and shattered dreams. That's pottage. Pottage is the main dish. Also, the side dish. And dessert. If you can stomach that much. It's a thick porridge made from cheap grains like millet or barley, mixed with whatever roots you could dig up from the garden or scavenge from the road. Carrots, turnips, wilted onions, sometimes beans, rarely, and if you're truly lucky, there might be a few chunks of old pork fat floating like tiny shipwrecks. That pottage pot is never washed. It's just topped up daily. A kind of heirloom cooking. Like your ancestors' soup. It always tastes old. Every spoonful is a blend of yesterday, last week, and maybe last year. You grab a wooden bowl not because it's your personal dish, but because it's the only one not cracked enough to leak porridge. You scoop some, blow gently, and cautiously take a bite. It's hot and indescribable. Like a muddy puddle with a hint of onion. Not too salty. Not sweet. Not zu. Not spicy. Just tired. Next to it is a loaf of bread. If you can call it that. It's a charred lump. Hard enough to double as a weapon. You don't slice it. You slam it on the table to crack it. Or use an axe. Inside, it's gray. Made from rye or barley flour. Mixed with bran and sometimes, sawdust. Yes. Sawdust. In lean harvests, people stretch the dough with tree bark, husks, or anything to make it rise. Call it culinary creativity. But it's really just starvation prevention. You gnaw the bread. Chew the porridge. Trying to swallow both the smell and the taste. No coffee, no tea, water. Don't even think about it. Drinking from the river could have you saying your goodbyes in 3 days. The only thing you can drink without dying instantly is beer. A mug of weak, low alcohol beer. Safe enough for kids to sip. Why? Because it's been heated during brewing, killing off at least some bacteria. The taste. Like dishwater mixed with spoiled yeast. But at least it doesn't kill you immediately. And in the Middle Ages, that's the gold standard. You look around, everyone in the house is silent. Quietly chewing and sipping. No one complains. No one compliments. Just the slow sound of chewing and the occasional soft sigh when someone bites into what they thought was a bean but turns out to be a piece of wood. You dream of cheese. Of eggs. Of butter. Those are just that, dreams. Cheese is rare and quick to spoil. Eggs are saved for bartering. Butter is kept for selling to the rich. You get pottage. Every morning. Every day. No exceptions. Maybe one day. You'll eat meat. On a big feast day. Or when the chicken dies of old age. But not today. Today is Monday. And Monday means pottage. And hard bread. And beer. You finish eating. Your stomach isn't happy. But at least it's not empty. By medieval standards. That's a victory. You stand. Wiping your mouth on your sleeve. No napkins. No soap. And that's it. Breakfast is over. A meal not for enjoyment, but for survival. Next. You'll head to the fields. To work. With a body full of dust. A stomach full of cold porridge. And a soul as empty as the bowl you just set on the shelf. But you're alive. And in the 14th century. That's something to celebrate. Congratulations. You've completed a medieval breakfast. Up next. It's time to get moving. Or rather, to brace yourself for a long day of breaking rocks, hauling water, and battling both nature and humanity. We'll get to that right after this. You've just survived the worst breakfast of your life. You're still alive. Which is great. But don't celebrate yet. Because next, you have to get dressed. And in the Middle Ages, fashion isn't about expressing yourself. It exists to keep you from freezing, to prevent your skin from being torn by grass, and, if you're lucky, to avoid being mocked too much. Your wardrobe. A fanciful concept. It's not a wooden cabinet with scented sachets. It's a hook on the wall, holding exactly one outfit. No options. No fall-winter collections. No spring-summer trends. Just one set of clothes. You wear it every day. Every single day. The first layer is an undershirt if you're lucky. A thin linen cloth. Turned gray. Torn in places. And possibly reeking from its last wash, last year. If you're not lucky, you skip straight to the main outfit, meaning direct contact with wool. Yes. Wool. The only material that keeps you warm while making you itch like you're under attack by fire ants. The outer tunic is made of thick, rough, dark wool. The stitching is visible, uneven. Because the tailor was your mother or you, and metal needles are so rare, they're shared like village treasures. Pants also wool. Long, tight, hot, and always damp. Shoes. If you're lucky enough to have them. They're crude leather, sewn with coarse thread. No soles. No lining. No left or right distinction. Wear them, and they hurt. Go without, and your feet get shredded. The choice is yours. You start dressing. It's like crawling into a tight, sticky, freezing sack. Sometimes, you need someone to tug the back. You suck in your breath. Pull the tunic over your head. And slide your arms into stretched out sleeves. The pants are tied with a cord. No zippers. Tie it poorly, and they'll slip while you're harvesting wheat. It's happened many times. You're not even fully dressed before the itching starts. Under your armpits. Behind your neck. In places that shouldn't itch. It's not sweat. It's fleas. And lice. And bed bugs. You live with them. They're the tenants who don't pay rent on your body. No one in the Middle Ages is clean. Clean is a concept for another century. Want to wash your clothes? Be my guest. You'll need to haul water from the well. Boil it. Soak the clothes in fireplace ash. Scrub them by hand on a wooden board. Dry them in the sun rarer than gold. Then wear them damp because it started raining again. So, most of the time, you don't wash. You wear. Until the clothes are too tattered to patch. If you're a woman, add a long skirt down to your ankles. Underskirt. Overskirt. Apron. Headscarf. Heavy. Layered. Sweltering. And all those layers won't shield you from the biting wind or the market lady's judgmental stare. If you're a noble, your clothes are fancier. Colored. Dyed with expensive pigments like indigo, saffron, or crushed seashells. But they don't hide the truth: you still smell. Because no matter how grand you are, there's no washing machine. And everyone itches. You glance at yourself in a dull bronze mirror, if you even have one. Your eyes are sunken. Your skin sallow. Your hair tangled. And your clothes wrinkled like a map of Europe. But you have to go out. You're now fashionable by medieval standards. No style. No choices. Just survival. And now, You're ready to face manual labor, brutal weather, and a host of other things that'll make you wish you were back in that smelly straw bed. Lucky you. The day's just beginning. You've filled your belly with that bizarre porridge and donned your scratchy, smelly wool layers. If you thought that was torture, give yourself a slap. Because the worst part of the day is just beginning. It's time to head to the fields. And you'll work. Work until your hands are numb. Your back bends into an L shape. And you start questioning the meaning of existence. No tractors. No plows. No synthetic fertilizers. Just you. A wooden hoe. An old ox, if you're wealthy. And acres of rocky, barren soil you call a field. You start by walking to the fields. 30 minutes if you're lucky. An hour if it rained yesterday, and the path is a muddy swamp. You carry your tools, hoe, sickle, rope, water bucket. All heavy. And no gloves. The first task is turning the soil. You drive the hoe into the ground. Flipping clumps. The dirt is heavy as stone. Sometimes you hit a root. Or worse. A rat. Each lift of the hoe feels like someone yanking your shoulder out of its socket. But you can't stop. Because if you stop, you plant nothing. And if you plant nothing, you starve. And if you starve, you die. Simple. You work with no breaks. No bells. No mid-morning coffee. Just the sun rising and setting. You stop when the light's too dim to see the way home. If you're working in the forest, you bring an axe. Instead of tilling, you chop wood. By hand. No chainsaws. No tractors. Each swing is a curse hurled at the heavens. Think farmers are lowly wrong. They're the backbone. They feed the village. But they're also the most exploited. You don't work for yourself. You work for the Lord. A big chunk of your harvest grain, chickens, eggs, honey is taken as tax. You keep just enough to scrape by. If you're a woman, no rest for you. After feeding the chickens, fetching water, and cooking, you head to the fields too. Or herdhoods. Or chop wood. Then you return to cook. Mend clothes. Teach kids. Clean the house. Milk the cows. No such thing as tired mom here. Just tired. Relentlessly. Kids, they don't get a childhood. No toys. No schools. From age 5. They're in the fields picking rocks. Herding ducks. Chasing rats. No one asks what they want to be when they grow up. Because growing up isn't a goal. It's a privilege. You work under sun, wind, dust, and sweat. Achstep. Mud clings to your feet. Mosquitoes bite. Flies swarm. Your back aches. Your eyes blur. You drink from a shared bucket. It tastes of iron. Or sometimes there's a dead bug floating. But you drink. Because you're thirsty. Because you need to live. Sometimes. Someone gets hurt. A deep cut. A twisted ankle. No paramedics. No medicine. Just old rags. Fireplace ash. And hope. If it gets infected, pray. And prepare a grave. Some days. You work all morning. At noon. It rains. Everything you planted washes away. No insurance. No compensation. You just stare and start over. And that's a normal day. A day without sickness. Without punishment. Without war. Just work. Exhaustion. And not dying. When the sun sets, you back up. Your shoulders feel broken. Your back is hunched. Your hands are blistered. You trudge home. Your mind is blank. You just hope tonight's pottage is warmer than usual. And that no dead rat fell into the pot. You don't work for passion. You work to survive. Because no one survives the Middle Ages without toiling like an ox. And sometimes, the ox has it better. It doesn't know it's suffering. You do. All too well. And tomorrow, you'll do it all again. Think the weather's a small thing. Just sun. Rain. Hot. Cold. Right. Wrong. In the Middle Ages, the weather is divine. It's an enemy. It can kill you without a sword. Every morning, when you step out of the house, the first thing you do isn't greet the neighbor, it's look up at the sky. Praying today isn't a nightmare. Let's start with winter. Winds that slice your skin. Cold that pierces your bones. No central heating. No double-glazed windows. Just a leaky thatched roof. Drafty wooden walls. And mud-plastered sides that soak up rain like a sponge. You wear everything you own, meaning another damp, brick-heavy woolen tunic. You burn wood. But wood is expensive. And you could be fined or lose a hand for chopping a tree without the Lord's permission. So you burn dung. Yes. Dung. From cows. Horses. Or even yourself if it comes to that. The cold doesn't just make you shiver. It numbs you. You can't move. Your fingers stiffen. Your nose drips. Then freezes. Your ears burn with pain. And if you fall asleep without covering up, you might wake with half your face purple. Not from a beating, from frostbite gnawing at you in the night. Summer. No better. The sun scorches. Sweat pour la graine. You can't shed layers. Bearing skin is indecent. Provocative. A risk of being stoned literally and figuratively. You wear your full, thick, black wool outfit. Absorbing heat like an oven. You work in the fields at noon. No umbrella. No hut. Just sun. Flies. And the whisper of death. Mosquitoes hum. Bees sting. Ants bite. You scratch until you bleed. But you can't stop. Stopping means no harvest. No harvest means hunger. Anger means death. Then there are windy days. Small whirlwinds rip off roofs. Scatter chickens. Or sometimes, it's just rain. Cold. Relentless rain. Pouring as if the sky wants to drown every puny human below. Rain turns fields to mud. Floods, crops. Wipes out harvests. And you standing in the field. Soaked like a drowned rat. Watch your labor wash away. No weather forecasts. No apps to check for rain. Just gut feelings. And rumors. Someone says a storm's coming. You believe them. You haul your hoe home. Sometimes it doesn't rain. You get scolded for laziness. Next time you stay. And it pours. You get sick. You lay down. And sometimes you don't get up. The weather in the Middle Ages is a gamble. You bet every day. Bet with your strength. Your life. Win. And you live. Lose. And you freeze. Burn. Or drown in mud. You can't fight nature. You can only endure. Huddle under a damp blanket. Shield your head with your sleeve. Or pray. And hope tomorrow isn't worse than today. In the Middle Ages, the weather isn't small talk. It's life or death. You've worked from dawn to dusk. Sweat soaks you inside and out. Outside and in. Your hands and feet are caked with mud. Your eyes sting from dust. And you think, surely you deserve to get clean. Wrong. Terribly wrong. In the Middle Ages, cleanliness is a bizarre concept. Eben. Suspicious. Let's start with the simplest thing, brushing your teeth. Think you get a toothbrush and minty toothpaste. Nope. You might chew a twig. Preferably from soft wood like willow or mint plants. That's your toothbrush. Toothpaste non existent. Some rinse with watered-down wine. Others use fireplace ash. Most do nothing. Fresh breath is a myth. Dente floss folkedit. You use your fingernail or a piece of straw to pick out bits of bread stuck in your teeth. Toothache. The only fix is extraction. And it's not a dentist doing it. It's the barber surgeon butcher kindly relative with a pair of pliers bigger than your face. No anesthesia. You scream. They pull. Done. Bathing. It's an event. Water has to be hauled from the well. Heated with wood. Poured into a wooden tub. Often. You bathe communally. No privacy. Sometimes it's the whole family: father, mother, kids, grandparents. The first person gets clean water. The last is lucky if it's still warm. Bathing too often raises eyebrows. People believe hot water opens pores, letting disease slip in. So, the dirtier you are, the safer you are. Sparkling clean. You might be branded a witch. Sopa luxury. Made from animal fat mixed with lye ash. Slimy and foul-smelling. Few use it. Most scrub with sand or tree bark. It stings and feels hopeless. Washing your hair, don't even dream of it. Shampoo hasn't been invented. You might use rice water or diluted lemon juice. Otherwise, you hope for rain. Deodorant scents are for royalty. Commoners use dried flowers. Orange peels. Or just enture. And get used to each other's smells. The result: everyone itches. Lice. Bed bugs. Fleas live in your hair. On your body. In your blankets. You scratch while sleeping. Eating. Praying. No one bats an eye. Someone who doesn't itch is the odd one. In the Middle Ages, cleanliness doesn't equal civilization. It's something you trade a full day's work for. And sometimes, you don't have a day to spare. So, if you've ever complained about no hot water, remember this: in 1325, a bucket of clean water and a scrap of soap could get you called a witch. And you don't want to know what happens next. You've caught a cold. Or cut your hand. Or God forbid a toothache. Normally, you'd call a doctor. Book an appointment. Get a prescription. Take some pills. But in 1325 you pray. And hope you don't die. Medieval medicine isn't what you know. It's not based on science. It's based on the four humors: blood, phlegm, yellow bile, black bile. If you're sick, those are out of balance. The cure: restore the balance. The quickest way: bloodletting. Yes. Bloodletting. The doctor, often a monk or a barber, takes a blade or a leech and sets it on your skin. To suck blood. Lots of blood. Until you're pale as a ghost. The goal: reduce heat. Fire. Or moisture. Does it work? No. But they believe it does. And keep doing it. Stomachache. Take a laxative. Headache. Slap raw onions on your forehead. Fever, soak in cow urine. It gets worse. Advanced treatments include stuffing garlic in your ears. Wearing amulets. Inhaling smoke from burning human hair. Or burying a wooden doll under an apple tree on a new moon. Broken bone. Luck of the draw. If you find a healer who knows how to set it, you might heal. If not, that arm stays crooked forever. If it gets infected, no penicillin. No antiseptics. You get fever. Pus. And die slowly. Childbirth. A lottery. No obstetrics. No scalpels. Just a midwife. No sterilization. No anesthesia. A baby's birth is a miracle. The mother, she battles pain, blood, and death. People believe illness comes from sin. From demons. From not praying enough. So you might get an exorcism instead of treatment. Maybe locked up. Maybe beaten to drive the devil out of your body. Infectious disease. No concept of bacteria. They think bad air miasma causes it. When plagues like the Black Death hit, they wear long-beaked masks. Stuff herbs up their noses. Burn incense everywhere. But the disease spreads. And people die. Why? Because medical knowledge is zero. Everything relies on legends, faith, and folk habits. If you get sick in the Middle Ages, don't look for medicine. Write your will. And hope death comes fast. Clean. And with less pain. Because in this era, docteurs don't cure. They just make death seem more reasonable. You drag yourself back after a long day. Feet aching. Hands throbbing. Mind spinning. The only thing you look forward to dinner. Something hot. Fragrant. Filling. But welcome to the Middle Ages. Where dinner isn't a reward. It's a test. If you're a peasant, there's no menu. You have pottage, a stew of everything. Not a recipe. Just whatever's on hand. Thrown in. Turnips. Carrots. Leeks. A few wild greens. Add some oats, if you still have them this season. If not, you add water. Lots of water. Mate, forget it. Unless today's a wedding. A saint's feast. Or the chicken keeled over dead and you hope the neighbors didn't see. Meat is a luxury. Most of it goes to taxes or the church. You eat meat 2 or 3 times a year. If you're lucky. Bread, sure. But it's black bread. Made from rye or barley. Hard as stone. Could double as a weapon. No knife. Use an axe to hack it apart. Eat it with soup. Nope. You dip it in to soften it. Then swallow. Chewing doesn't help. Sometimes. To fill your stomach. You mix in tree bark. Roots. Even sawdust. Mold is an unwilling spice. Some molds cause hallucinations. Some cause death. Eating bread in the wet season is a gamble. If you're lucky enough to have eggs, great. But eggs kept for a week without a fridge are a coin toss. Some peasants store eggs in ash to preserve them. Others just leave them, hoping the hen isn't too mad when you take them. What do you drink? Water? No. Water carries disease. You drink small beer weak. Low alcohol brew. Just strong enough to kill germs. Not strong enough to get you drunk. Kids drink it too. No one's thrilled. But at least you don't die of dysentery. Dinner isn't plated. No tablecloths. Everyone sits around the fire. Each gets a wooden bowl. Sometimes a shared one. Spoons are wood or bone. Chopsticks don't exist. Metal spoons. Keep dreaming. Spices, too expensive. A pinch of pepper costs half a month's wages. Salt is worth gold. You use onions. Garlic. Or if you're lucky, wild mustard foraged from the woods. Dessert non. No ice cream. No cakes. If there's bread left, that's your treat. If not, you sip the leftover broth, hoping it's warm enough to trick your hunger. The food doesn't fill you. It keeps you alive. And sometimes, it makes your stomach hurt. But everyone eats. Because not eating means weakness. Weakness means you can't work. Can't work. You starve. A vicious cycle seasoned with mud, sweat, and luck. In the Middle Ages, dinner isn't Instagram worthy. It's the only thing standing between you and a night of gnawing hunger. And tonight, if you can sleep with a stomach that's not empty and not in pain, you're the luckiest person in the village. You've just finished dinner. Your stomach full enough not to groan in pain. But before you can dream of your rock-hard straw bed, the church bell tolls. Not for a festival. It's a reminder. Prayer time has come. In the Middle Ages, religion isn't a side dish to life. It's the spine. The unwritten law. The one thing that can save you or burn you at a heresy trial. Every day, you hear the church bells. Morning, noon, afternoon, evening. Ignore them, trouble. Skip mess, bigor trouble. You can't read the Bible, it's in Latin. You only know what the priest tells you. If he says you're a sinner, you're a sinner. No one dares argue. You pay a tithe 1/10 of your harvest to the church. No negotiation, no deferrals. Even if the crops fail. You hand over eggs, grain, chickens. Fail to pay, you're excommunicated. Kicked out of the spiritual community and practically the village too. Sin is easy to commit, hard to escape. Lying sin. Bad thoughts, sin. Forgetting to clasp your hands before eating sin. Every act could be a doorway to hell. A place of fire demons, beasts, and eternal torment. Paintings of hell hang in every church. A reminder God loves you. But he'll burn you, if you stray. Priests preach endlessly about suffering. Enduring hardship on earth purifies your soul. They say, poverty is a blessing. Pain is a test. Joy dangerous. It's temptation. You don't just believe. You fear. Every strange event is a sign. Flut God's punishment. Sudden death God's warning. Odd birthmark. The devil's mark. Confess immediately. Or worse things come. Every major festival is tied to religion. Christmas. Easter. Local saints' days. You don't celebrate for fun. You do it for a rare day off, maybe with a bit of beer. And to ensure your soul isn't forgotten. Women, they must be especially pious. Have a contrary opinion. Know how to mix herbs. Or simply stay single too long. You might be called a witch. The punishment tied up. Thrown in a river. If you float, witch. If you sink, innocent and dead. The church doesn't just hold services. It records births, deaths, marriages, land deals. The priest is the village's Google. Without his approval, you don't exist. And no matter how many lice, sores, or debts you have, you go to church every Sunday. Kneel. Listen to sermons. Sing hymns. When you leave, you bow your head. Safe from hell. For another week. At least. If you're a woman in medieval Europe, your life is scripted from birth. You don't choose your job, your marriage, your vote, your land, your voice. You have one purpose: marry and bear children. Dreams, passions, careers. Those belong to another century's dictionary. From childhood, you're taught to be obedient first to your father, then to your husband. If you're a peasant, life begins with hauling water, feeding pigs, washing clothes by hand in freezing river water, and cooking over a smoky fire. If you're a noble, congratulations. You're still married off to seal alliances, trading your life for land or power for your family. But at least you eat with a silver spoon. Girls are often betrothed as children. 12 is a suitable age for marriage. Pregnant at 14 is common. 3 childbirths by 20 isn't unusual. And if you die giving birth, they'll pray for your soul. Then marry your husband to another woman. Life goes on without you. Motherhood isn't a calling. It's a duty. And being a wife, it's submission. The law allows your husband to beat you if he thinks you need discipline. Courts won't interfere. Unless you die. And sometimes, even then, he walks free. Unmarried society eyes you with suspicion. A woman without a husband is a threat. Talk too much, you're a gossip. No herbs, You're a witch. Live alone. You're up to something illegal. All it takes to be executed. A neighbor's dirty look and a black cat. In church. You can't be a priest. You can be a nun. Living in a convent, no marriage. No property. No freedom. But at least you might learn to read, a rarity for women then. Most women are illiterate. Not because they don't want to learn. But because no one teaches them. You're not allowed to speak much. A talkative woman is seen as insolent. You're advised to stay quiet. Nod. Bow. Men speak. You listen. Men decide. You obey. Have an opinion. That's the sin of pride. You work endlessly. If you're a peasant. You toil in the fields. Alongside your husband. Then go home to cook. Clean. Raise children. No washing machines. No disposable diapers. No formula milk. Everything comes from your hands. And when you're exhausted, you don't complain. Complaining is ungrateful. Complaining is immoral. Widowed. You gain a sliver of freedom. But also risk. A woman without a man's protection is a target. People will say you're seducing. Scheming. Dangerous. Even if you're just trying to survive. Women can't dream big. Can't go to war. Can't study law. Can't own land unless you're a noble widow. And even then, you need a man to represent you. You don't sign contracts. You don't sue. You're property with feelings. Think you're an exception. Remember, the system is built to push you back into place. A place on the margins. A place of endurance. A place in the shadows. Yet, despite being forced into this mold, medieval women life. They pass down knowledge through stories. They teach their children. Their grandchildren. They secretly heal. Write poetry. Keep diaries. They make armor for warriors. They preserve community memory through lullabies and songs. And sometimes, some rise up. Whether nuns, countesses, or peasants. They leave marks. Some write letters to kings. Some defy heresy trials. Some hold on to land after their husband's death. They prove that even in darkness, someone lights a fire. Medieval women aren't helpless victims. They're survivors. Clinging to every crack in the system. Swallowing anger. Hiding talents. Passing down strength by enduring. So, if you're reading this, take a moment to honor them. Those without a voice. Who wove history with bare hands. Tears. And resilience. In the Middle Ages, peace isn't a state. It's a miracle. A fleeting thing. Always teetering on collapse. You don't live in a society guarded by laws. You live in a system where violence is normal. Accepted. And sometimes encouraged. Violence is everywhere, in the home. At the market. On the road. In the church. On the battlefield. It's not a sign of chaos. It's part of the order. Argue with a neighbor, he might bash you with a hoe. Stare too long at a noble's wife, you could be flayed. Caught stealing a chicken. Lose a hand. Steal a sheep, lose your head. No concept of mercy. Only punishment. Cour existe. But not to protect. They're for show. And if you're a peasant, good luck. No lawyer. No evidence. No rights. Just hope. And in the Middle Ages, hope is cheap currency. One common trial method is torture. Not to find the truth. To force a confession. You're tied to a table. Your heels are burned. You're stretched on a rack. Water's poured up your nose. Die before confessing. That proves you're guilty. If you're a woman accused of witchcraft, you face the water test, thrown into a river. Float. You're a witch. Sink. You're innocent and dead. Death isn't rare. It's part of the landscape. Public executions draw village crowds. Hangings. Burnings. Beheadings. People bring food. Kids sit on parents' shoulders. They're not scared. They're entertained. Violence is also the church's tool. Heresy. Blasphemy. Questioning faith. Any can get you dragged to the square and burned. Even saying something different from the priest's sermon. The army. Not professionals. They're peasants handed spears and shoved onto battlefields. Mass deaths aren't accidents. They're tactics. And war is never far. Some lord is always feuding with another. And you the commoner pay the price. On the way to market. You might be robbed. Not by outlaws. By tax collectors. Or los soldiers. Or hay del mercenaries. They take your goods. Your horse. Sometimes your daughter. No one's arrested. No one apologizes. Domestic violence is accepted. Men can beat wives. Children. Servants. No reason needed. Just a mood. Every slap is a lesson. Every beating a sermon. If you're weak woman. Child. Poor you have no voice. No weapons. Only endurance. And sometimes. A knife hidden in your cloak. The law doesn't protect. It enforces rank. The powerful win. The poor lose. And the losers shut up. In the Middle Ages. You don't hope for justice. You hope to survive. Each day without being beaten. Robbed. Or killed is a success. And if you're still breathing when the sun sets, congratulations. You've won another round in the brutal survival game called being human in the Middle Ages. You're living in the 14th century. Where the air is damp with the stench of animal dung and human sweat. You work to exhaustion. Eat to survive. Sleep beside writs. And every morning, you wake up is a victory. But even if you survive hunger, cold, disease, the church, war, there's one final enemy, you can't escape death. In the Middle Ages, death isn't an accident. It's the final chapter of a pre-written book. Average life expectancy. About 30 to 40 if you're lucky. Nearly half of children don't make it past 5. UD from favor. Infection. A stray blade. Childbirth. Winter. Or simply stepping on a rusty thorn. Death is a daily fixture. People see bodies in the village. In the fields. Down wells. No ambulances. No emergency rooms. When you fall. You stay where you drop. Someone might drag you back. Someone might leave you. And if you die cleanly not rotting in the street they hold a funeral. Funerals are religious rites. You're washed sort of. Dressed in your best clothes, often your only clothes. Placed in a coffin if rich. Or wrapped in burlap if poor. The church holds prayers. Bells toll. Your soul is commended to heaven if you paid your tithes and weren't excommunicated. Burial is a problem. Cemeteries are sacred. Limited ground. If you're a poor peasant, you're buried on the edge. Where rocks and weeds grow knee-high. Coffins might be reused after a few years. Bones are cleared out for the next occupant. No space. You're buried with others. Or worse. Tossed in a pit. The smell of death becomes familiar. In summer. Bodies rot fast. In winter. They freeze hard as stone. Death is never clean. Always flies. Always blood. Always a stray dog lurking near a fresh dug grave. When plagues hit like the Black Death, everything collapses. People die too fast. Too many. No time to bury. No space. They dig mass graves. Toss in bodies. Cover them with a thin layer of dirt. No coffins. No prayers. Just a pile of decaying flesh. And the smell. A stench that haunts the village. The century. Medieval theology teaches that death isn't the end. Your soul is weighed at heaven's gate. Too many sins. Hell. Not holy enough purgatory where your soul burns slowly to purify. Lucky you reach heaven. Reunite with ancestors. Sing with angels. But honestly, most hope for purgatory. Heaven's too extravagant. The living try to help the dead with prayers. Buy masses. Light candles. Do good deeds in their name. But if you're poor, no one does that for you. Your soul wanders. In darkness. Alone. No prayers follow you. Death is painted as a skeleton in a hood. Scythe in hand. No distinction between king or peasant. Man or woman. He comes when you're weakest. No knock. No warning. And when he arrives, no one stops him. You don't choose how you die, but you can choose how to live so your death hurts less. Or is less shameful. In a world where neither life nor death is clean. That's all you can hope for. And when they say, "May your soul rest in peace," they don't know where you are. But they know one thing. You've left a world that never welcomed you with kindness. And if there's something on the other side, hopefully, it's better than this. If you think the Middle Ages were a time of gallant knights riding white horses into battle for honor and love, I'm sorry to disappoint you. You've been duped by Hollywood. In reality, the knight's dream, shimmering with swords and romantic ideals, exists only in poetry, mostly written by people who never wore real armor. Let's start with the so-called castle. In your imagination, it's a majestic fortress atop a hill, with soaring towers and fluttering banners. Reality, a gray stone block, cold as a freezer, damp, and reeking of mildew. Dreaming of Rapunzel-style romance. She'd probably have died of pneumonia from drafts whistling through the stone cracks. Castles have no heating, no glass windows, no fluffy blankets or foam mattresses. Stone walls trap heat perfectly in summer. They're ovens. In winter. Iceboxes. Great at keeping out enemies, sure. But not colds. Coughs. Or creacuyoins. Now. The knights. In novels. They ride horses. Charge into battle. Swear loyalty. Protect women and children. In real life, they're wealthy nobles with weapons. Trained from childhood to fight often for political gain. Not moral ideals. Armor. Not as sleek as in films. A full suit of steel weighs 20 to 30 kilograms. Covering you, head to toe. Taking it off isn't easy. Putting it on requires help. Fall over. You're a turtle on its back. And in battle, you might die of exhaustion before your sword even touches the enemy. Knights don't fight every day. They spend more time managing estates, dealing with lawsuits, or just feasting and drinking. And if there's war, they fight as mercenaries. On the king's orders. Or for personal gain. Not all have romantic souls. The code of chivalry sounds noble but usually applies only to the upper class. You won't see knights bowing to peasants. You'll see them whipping beggars for blocking their horse's path. Honor doesn't extend to the poor. Think castles host grand feasts with music and wine, sure. But alongside the stench of stables, urine pooling in corridors, and moans from prisoners in the dungeon. Fun. But smelly. And the ladies in the castle, they don't sit embroidering and singing all day. They manage servants, tally grain stores, handle diplomacy, and bear children as a political duty. They're also forced into kisses, sold into marriages, and sometimes poisoned. Noble marriages are bloody bargains. No love, just property and prestige. Romeo and Juliet. If real, their parents might have slit their throats for shaming the family. Knights sometimes rob, kill, and rape, especially on crusades. Those weren't religious missions. They were organized plunder in God's name. And sometimes, the victims were fellow believers. If you're a mercenary, you might starve, be betrayed, or be executed if your lord loses. If you're a commoner, you hide in the forest, dig holes to cower in, pray, and hope no night passes by. So, the night's dream sparkles like a painting. But look closely, and you'll see thick mud caked on those iron boots. And the castle, the place you dream of living in, is really a stone prison with narrow windows, dark corridors, and loneliness as thick as the fog on its walls. Want medieval romance? Write poetry. Don't live it. So, you've survived a full day in the medieval world. You woke up on a rotting straw bed, stepped over chicken dung, ate sur porridge, worked to exhaustion, dodged disease, feared divine wrath, and maybe witnessed an execution in the market square. Congratulations. You're alive. For now, but what's left after it all? After a day of filth, blood, and desperate prayers, what legacy does the medieval world leave for humanity today? First, it's a lesson in resilience. Medieval people lived in an unforgiving reality. No hygiene, no medicine, no justice, no kindness. Yet they endured. They plowed fields, wove cloth, sanson, fell in love. In the worst conditions, humans still found ways to carry on. It's the instinct to survive, not out of hope, but because there was no other choice. Second, the Middle Ages teach us about power. Those who held land, literacy, or the church controlled the game. Commoners weren't citizens. They were property. And laws weren't made to protect the weak. They were written to cement the strong. Today, we look at the Middle Ages and wonder, how did they endure? But the truth is, we carry much of that era in us: language, law, religion, genobiasis. The shadow of the Middle Ages doesn't just live in history books. It lingers in the present. The towering stone cathedrals, the hymns, the epic tales, all products of a poor but fiercely creative age. In darkness, they wrote light. They copied Bibles with ink and blood. They carved words into stone to preserve ideas. And though only a few could read or write, those few clung to knowledge across generations. The Middle Ages were also the cradle of resistance. Not everyone knelt. Some stood up. Some hid forbidden books. Some fled their lords. Some lit fires for freedom in the dark. And they, not emperors or bishops, laid the groundwork for the Renaissance. You might scorn the Middle Ages, but you can't deny it's part of humanity's flesh and bone. A long chapter, with pages burned. Voix silenced. Yet still ours. Looking back on a day in that era, what do you see? Barbarity, yes. Absurdity, absolutely. But also endurance. Love. Despictebans. Music from the lips of the blind. Stories passed from grandmother to grandchild. Flickers of light amid the ashes. And that's what makes the Middle Ages more than a dark memory. It's a mirror reflecting humanity's eternal fears and hopes. You've lived one day. But the journey to understand the Middle Ages has just begun. Because sometimes, to grasp the present, we must relive the past, even if just for a day. Steeped in chicken dung and muttered prayers. Thank you for surviving. We'll meet again in the next era, where things aren't exactly cleaner. But at least, there's toilet paper.